these are the letters.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've got the book here, thank you.
We got all this. Great. Okay, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. I'm going to declare the meeting of the Wiscasset Historic Commission open. My name is John Reinhardt, and I'm the chairman, first chair, whatever you want to call me, of the Historic Commission. And on my right,
Gordon Contract.
Hey guys, Leslie Roberts.
so let's go ahead, and we have a new recording secretary. I know her well, Marie Reinhardt. And we can go to number 1 in the agenda. The meeting minutes for November 1st were never written because, in fact, we didn't have a recording secretary. But we do have the minutes. All of this is being broadcast on YouTube. So if you want to see how you look on YouTube, this is your chance. So I'm going to go past that, and we will identify that and get the recording done and put it on paper for the November 1st. The other meetings that we had, we didn't have a quorum in November. We had problems with snow and illness in December, and here we are in January. So, bring your chairs up. We have a certificate of appropriateness review. Stephen and Janet Whitfield, 4 Shinbone Alley, Wiscasset. That's why you can be right in the center, so we can get you on. We've had a lot of statements as to your COA. Would you tell the board that I mentioned to you before the meeting, I said, did you go see the CEO? And you said, the code enforcement officer.
Yes, I called him in, I believe it was October, before we purchased the property, to inquire is what would be the process to put a greenhouse on the property. And he said that we would need to come before you. And I said, well, do you see any issue from your point of view, from the code enforcement and that? And he said, no, as long as we got your permission.
Okay. Good. Well, let's go ahead with your certificate of appropriateness. You want to explain what you're doing and why you're doing it, which you obviously have this memorized pretty well.
The property's been vacant for many years. First with a building on it that was in very bad repair, and it was finally bought 10 years ago? 7, 8 years ago, and the people were talking about, and they removed the building. They had it demolished, and literally the chimney was falling down through the roof, and it was beyond repair. And they were planning to at least have a summer home up here and to build there. They indicated to us when we'd see them in the summer that, well, that they were hoping this year was going to be the year, and they never did. And finally this year they decided that they would buy a property, and I believe they did that on Summer Street, and decided to sell it. Meanwhile, the property at 62 Water Street was bought by the Sullivans, Jim Sullivan and his wife, and they put a major addition onto that home and refurbished it, a building that had been in disrepair.
And they did come through with a COA with us.
Yeah.
And They talked with the previous owners of the Shinbone Alley property, and found out they were going to sell it, and they talked to people in our immediate neighborhood and wondered if anyone would be interested in sharing the property. And at that time, why don't you continue?
Okay. Jim told Steve, among the other neighbors, that the property was available for sale. He wondered if he would like to go halves. Jim and Ami would purchase the closest one to them and would be split, and the back half would be available for someone else to purchase. What was he interested in? And to my surprise, once he found out what we were talking about money-wise, what the purchase price would be, he indicated some interest. And so he came back to me and he said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, what are you thinking of doing with the property once we purchase it?" And he said, I said, "You don't want to put a garage back there because it's diagonally from us." And I said, "Well, what are you thinking?" He said, "Well, I know you've always wanted a greenhouse." And this was total surprise to me. I had no idea what he was thinking. And I kind of stood back and I said, "Well, I would love to have a greenhouse on that piece of property." And I said, "I think that's a reasonable price. I agree with you." So we went from there. We felt that they have been, well, all of our neighbors are really good neighbors as far as getting along with one another, and so that made a big difference as well.
Sure.
Because we'd be putting ourselves right out there closer to other people as well. But we felt like it's a really good neighborhood. People take care of their property, and we would be honored to have another property in that area. So.
And both ourselves and Jim and his wife, the piece of property that's now split will be better taken care of. Absentee owners just didn't have it.
Well, they were at distance, so
Yeah.
they could only do so much to take care of it, yeah.
Probably cut down a huge amount of bamboo.
Okay. So it's split. This is where you were talking about. There was some type of confusion. Agreed, like what proposed new division line. Do you want to explain some of your thoughts?
Right.
Carl Olson did the division
Okay.
for us, so it would be evenly divided.
So has the property already been legally split, or is it just,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
done?
It's
So
done.
it's on your deed and you don't have to worry about doing a co-application, worrying about the Sullivans and liability
no.
or anything? Okay, that's good.
It's been officially done.
Good. Okay, congratulations.
And recorded, of course.
Okay, fantastic.
And so on your first plan, this is where you're looking
Yes.
to put the green.
The property towards Water Street, the half towards Water Street, the Sullivans now own. The half towards Middle Street, we own. And we had Mr. Olson create a line that kept the properties equal, but allowed us a passageway from our own property to our new property.
Yeah, I think there's actually a 9-foot.
So Carl has done all the survey work on that.
Yes.
So that's from that standpoint.
So, I'm sorry to interrupt. So if I'm looking at the lot, and here's Shinbone Alley, this is the greenhouse. So this side of, there will be, that your lot is on Shinbone Alley?
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay, I see. And this is your property?
Correct.
That's our
Adjacent.
home.
Yeah, it's kind of diagonal
Gotcha.
to it, but
Okay.
there is
And you've
about
got a
9-foot.
fence around your current
We have a stocking
backyard?
fence, yes.
Yes.
And you're just gonna put a gate in?
Yes, probably to the back. The spacing will work out best on that.
Okay. And no thoughts about running a fence around the back lot?
No, we've actually talked to Mr. Sullivan, and I think we kind of came to the tentative conclusion that maybe we would even do vegetation
Right.
between their property and ours. He does not want to put anything where he wants that just to be part of his property.
Thank you.
And this is a picture of the mainstay greenhouse. that, is, a new line of greenhouse.
So you went quickly,
Yes.
come down there.
This is Mrs. Green. It's kind of hard to see from my
Yeah,
printout.
Here, Susan, I have a COA if you like
Is
to
it,
look at it.
It looks like it's aluminum frame. Is it?
No,
aluminum
it's
frame?
cedar.
Cedar frame, okay, with sort of a, like a plexiglass material, cloudy or clear?
It's clear.
Okay. And the roof is aluminum?
No,
No, it's
same,
all
same
wood.
material.
All wood, okay.
It's standalone, not
Mhm.
attached to the house.
Right.
That's
Here's
correct.
the-
Thank you.
Mhm.
The company has models like that you can put against a barn or something.
Right.
That's,
Yeah. But this is a standalone.
this is a standalone.
Mhm.
And you won't be running electric or plumbing to it, so in the wintertime, will it just be sort of, resting
Dormant.
Yeah,
dormant?
That's
Right.
correct. That's
Okay.
correct, yeah.
Yeah, on the last page, it's stated, project description. And the owners plan to landscape the lot and around the greenhouse. They'll place a gate in their existing stockade fence to provide access from their property. There will be no electrical or water utility hook.
Right.
The landscaping that you're thinking of putting around the property, will the landscaping sort of shield the view of the greenhouse from Shinbone Alley slightly, so it's a little bit more private?
That's my plan,
Okay.
yes, yeah. I've seen a lot of, I've bought some greenhouse books and found some ideas for whether it's a hedge type greenery or tall plants or that sort of thing. I know sometimes you can have the raised gardens that are against them on one side, and a lot of different
Yeah.
ideas.
I mean, I think I'm a gardener and I love greenhouses. My only concern is that I don't think this particular model is the most historic looking option you could pick from this company. But if you're going to be screening it from Shinbone Alley, I don't really, I think
No,
that would
my
be
plan
good.
is basically to have plants
Right.
all around.
Right, okay. Any thoughts?
I'm going to ask Susan a question. You have a greenhouse.
I do.
How close to your house? Yours is attached to your house? And,
Mine's attached and it's year round because we've got tropicals.
Oh, nice.
okay.
And it also has a mostly glass roof. Same thing. They need the sun when they can get it. We also have grow lights for when they can't get it.
And
Nice.
I'm working on the historical appearance aspect of what we're discussing here. Yours was built in what time frame?
I'm going to say we've had it in at least 15 years, maybe more.
Okay. No, I'm just trying to
As to
picture.
the look of this greenhouse, traditionally greenhouses were huge. one thing.
Multi-paned.
And thank goodness, I had not seen the COA and I should have known better. I was terribly afraid it was going to be one of those ones that's attached and goes like this.
Looked like a Quonset
Ugly.
hut.
But I think that this one is as simple and maybe not historically exact, but certainly historically acceptable, I would think. because it is wood, it is not aluminum, for what my opinion's worth. You know, I think it's a good design. I don't know what you're planning to grow in it. Starting seedlings, starting vegetables?
Oh, yes,
or-
oh, yes.
Yeah.
I'll mention what you do.
Marie knows I'm a member of the garden club.
Yeah.
And I've really used a lot of the experts in the garden club for ideas for planting around my home. And also, my role in the garden club is youth activities, and I'm in charge of planting and helping to maintain 4 raised beds at the elementary school. And so I have the experience growing lots of vegetables and flowers, both of which I'm interested in starting and maintaining there as well. And I'm also used to growing a lot up on our deck in our home. And one thing I would like to do would be to start a lot of those plants early.
Yeah,
Bring some up and have some down around the edge of the greenhouse.
yeah, agreed, that'd be pretty.
So, yeah. So I'm very excited about it because it gives me the opportunity to do so much more with plants with a short growing season.
Yeah, true.
It will be anchored, but basically it's being brought in and set down. So,
And it has
so
actually,
What's its floor?
it,
Whatever ground that you want. I mean, you could leave it grass, but obviously that would probably turn to mud after a while. They suggest you can either put stones in the crushed stone, or you can put paving stones at ground level.
But it doesn't come with a
No,
Oh,
I think because they want
yeah.
the earth to help keep it warm
and drain.
and drain. Yes.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I was just curious, you know, the question being, okay, it's being transported in, which would kind of put it into the category of it being a movable structure.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see any problem with that at all.
Are there any more questions or statements or thoughts? I see that you have your letters from Jim and Arnie, and all of you, you've done that. And you have gone through our admin with Kathleen. There was a lot of discussion as to how people were involved, whether the code enforcement officer was involved. And as you said, yes, he was. You talked to him. The code department advised you as to the requirements of the application contents, obviously. You worked through the office, the admin office. And I'm making these statements because of the changes in people. We really have to make sure that everybody follows a certain path. And that's one of the things that I'm really concerned with. I see no reason to vote against this or to make any negative statements on it. So I'd like to have somebody move that we accept it.
Anybody here in public?
Well, that's what I made that statement. Is there anybody here who would like to say something? I should use those words. You're absolutely right. Yes.
My name is Tina Tucker. I live at 5 Shinbone Alley. My property is directly across from this, which is now vacant lot. And I'm absolutely thrilled that there will be an addition to that piece of property. It's been, as Jan and Steve reiterated, it's been through a long sad history since the owner who was there when I bought my property over 40 years ago was there, and now with the vacant lot, it's just it needs.
It needs love and care.
It needs good, right.
Of course.
Yeah. So I was absolutely thrilled when they spoke about a greenhouse, and I think it will be a wonderful addition to it's small. you know, Shinbone Alley is a very a small,
Yeah, it is. It's so
a
cute.
small passageway
Mhm,
between two
mhm.
secondary roads, and it's, so there's not a lot of room there. This is perfect. So.
And it's good to hear from the neighbors.
Mhm.
That's, you know, that, you're gonna live with it.
That's right, that's
No
exactly
matter what.
right.
Well, originally, when the Carolans were anticipating their home, we didn't really know what the Sullivans were going to do, and their addition it's lovely, but
Mhm.
it's large.
Yeah, it is.
And with another house right directly across, the space was just,
Seems pretty.
I mean, it is what it is, if that had
Yeah.
been the way things went, but this just leaves breathing space and growing space, so it's, yeah, it's perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I just had one more comment, and then if you're ready to
Sure.
bring up the
Please,
vote, I'm
that's-
totally ready
That's what we're
to.
here for.
So I'm thrilled, Janet, I know you're gonna make it look really beautiful, and if you're in the garden club, I know you're going to do an amazing job, and you've got a great wealth of people to talk to if you have any questions. So I'm thrilled about it. I just, my only hesitation was that it didn't look very historic, and if you're going to be, I would imagine if you have screening plants and a little winding path and an arbor or something that would make it look really historically appropriate, it would be a gorgeous lot, it'd be a gorgeous space, so.
Well, that's one reason why I'm doing all this research and
Mhm.
buying books and reading up on ways to decorate.
Yes.
Because I think that can make a huge difference.
Yeah, it will be really pretty if it's all landscaped, it will look gorgeous.
And it's gonna add to the historic area, so. Beauty always helps,
Mhm.
so. Excuse me. Would someone like to,
Well, I will move that we accept this COA and approve it, having met the requirements of the Preservation Commission and understanding that it has met all the requirements of planning and zoning.
And I would double check with Bruce, because he did mention that he thought you guys might need a building permit, so I would just make
We
double
were,
sure.
we were
Okay.
expecting,
Good.
when I talked to him in the fall, he said, well, you need to get this permission and then come see me.
Okay, thank you, perfect.
okay, it's been moved and seconded. Do you want to read the,
Oh, I haven't gotten the motion.
oh, okay. A motion, that's,
To accept the COA as presented for the greenhouse on Shinbone Alley.
Is there a second?
that's, I'd like you to read it.
Oh, it's been moved that the COA be accepted and approved.
Okay, I put in the name of Stephen and Janet Whitfield on that. And
For 4
it's
Chinbone Alley.
4 Chinbone Alley. 4. Love that name. I wish I knew the history of that name. Okay, it has been moved. All those in favor, show your right hand. Thank you. Have fun. I'm really looking
Thanks for
forward
your
to seeing you.
patience, sorry, we had to reschedule you.
And I have books for you to look at.
So bye.
Now, do we get something from the commission?
Yes, you will get a letter within 10 days. And this letter will be all set. We've been working on a COA application checklist, and Ed Leslie has been the driving force on this stuff. And I just love to give people copies of this, because I've been handing it out, because it's really good. But in this, it says, if your COA is approved, applicant, planning board, and code enforcement officer receives approval letter from the HPC within 10 days of approval. So within 10 days, I will be typing and sending you, and my letters will go to you, and they will also via Kathleen Honorato, and then she will send things out to the code enforcement officer, planning board, and you will get your copy. And that will probably get you, I'm not sure, a free cup of coffee at my house. You can try it. very much
And
for
we
your
love
time.
photos. Once you have the landscaping done, we'll put photos on the HPC Facebook page. So please
Okay,
keep us posted.
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure I
You do realize you're gonna have half the town a little crazy. Would you?
It's true.
Would you?
I
You
know.
got room for this?
Okay, moving right in to the next step. Let's discuss the COA application checklist.
Yes.
And I think,
I have a copy, I printed out copies of the most recent version, but I have a feeling we may need to make,
is this the one that you?
no, I have a newer one.
All right.
And we may, if we need to make a few tweaks based on all of our emails flying around today about the process and who does what when, then I'll make edits. The Facebook page isn't published, but at least he was good enough to create it and get it started. So even if the Facebook page isn't ready,
You got an extra?
I do. Do you need one, Marie?
I don't
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
And we look forward to having pictures.
You will.
Okay, so, do you guys want to, should we go through these step by step? Or do you want to just review and holler out a comment? You can move closer.
Yeah, I can see the difference after, and the completed applications must be, that's good that it's highlighted in black. I agree with
Yes.
that. And during a review of your COA, the HPC may approve, deny, or postpone the decision due to insufficient information included in the application document. Please be sure to fill out the COA with as much detail as possible, including photos and drawings when required.
And we
I
might,
would like to drop when required.
okay, that's easy.
Yeah.
And we might want to say something like, see the HPC Facebook page or where we're going to post a good example of a COA. We've had a few good ones. Maybe we can post one as a, like, this is the way it should look.
Yeah, I gave her last, we have, I think I mentioned to you on the phone, we have somebody buying 22 Federal Street. And it's a gentleman named Rescue?
Something.
Yeah,
Which is
Anthony.
Which
He's
is
a-
22?
It's across from the cemetery.
Oh, I know exactly, it's Barbara Bruno's house.
Yes, and this gentleman is going in there with, complete, restoration, loves it, has been, just is really on top of it.
Right.
And he came by yesterday to find out, and I gave him this. I said, this is something that we're working on. It's a work in progress, so.
Well, I think the Elizabeth Maxwell COA was the really beautiful one. Wasn't it the one we were all oohing and eyeing about? That she had
Yeah,
done such a
yeah.
gorgeous job.
Well, that box, on the side, so we can have the CEO, put a check in there and
Yeah,
his,
exactly.
his or
That would be
her,
on
her
the,
initials. is
that would be
like-
on the COA, the actual COA.
Okay, is there any statement about that particular? I'm just starting from below the,
No, but that would be an actual change to the COA document. And what we were talking about, Susan and Gordon, is
Yep.
adding a box on the front page of the COA that says approved, reviewed by codes enforcement officer and his initials and the date. So we know that this COA has been seen by him and he's giving it his blessing for it to move on to us for review and approval. Is that?
and this was something that I would imagine Kathleen would work out with code enforcement because he works right with her and they talk between each other from what I have understood. understood.
So I think what I'm not clear on though in the process is, if everything goes through the codes enforcement first, does he says, okay, your project will require a COA, your project will require a building permit, get the COA before you get the building permit?
Yeah.
Is that what he says?
That's what he told them, and that,
Okay.
as we discussed earlier,
Okay,
he cannot issue a building permit
until we.
without the COA,
Okay,
because otherwise people could just go ahead and,
so
And they
should I
probably
add
will.
that to this checklist? Well, it says codes department will determine if a building permit and/or COA is required, advise as to application requirements and provide necessary applications. Okay, so that probably covers that.
yeah, and he knows, I mean, as he told the Whitmans,
Yeah,
Whitfield, hello.
yeah.
As
Whitfield.
he told the Whitfields, he couldn't give them a building permit until
Okay,
he had gotten them. I have great confidence in Bruce knowing what he's doing
I do too.
and
Okay.
being
I
reasonably
agree.
sober and not a
I
drug
agree. I
addict
think
and
Bruce works.
healthy and all
extremely
those good things.
Right.
Just to try and picture what we're looking at here, the box, multiple places.
We're
Is-
going, excuse me,
is-
Gordon, but we're going back and forth between two things,
Mhm.
and I would suggest that we finish with this
I agree.
and then move on to that,
Okay, good.
because,
And it's better to have something like this going, and if we, you know, and we put it into the works, and then we can, if we find that we have to modify, then we can modify.
Yeah.
And I don't think modifications at this point in our life will really upset the cart at
It's
all.
easy to make changes as long as you don't. get
So,
crazy.
let's go back.
so, number 4,
Yep,
Number
paragraph 4.
Yeah.
yes.
When required, you'd like to take out?
What, no. Due to insufficient information included in the application document,
Uh-huh.
that limits it to me. Is that the only reason we can postpone?
No, no, there are many other.
Because we may have,
Questions.
we may have sufficient information,
Well, have questions.
but have questions, you know, it just, I don't know if
I mean, I
we
think,
want to limit as to why we are postponing or denying the decision.
well, I'm not sure if I follow you, because, I mean, we may approve, deny, or postpone a decision based on many reasons, but one of the reasons can be insufficient information, specifically, when we're specifically referencing a COA and you're completing it, if you don't fill it out properly, that can affect how quickly we can actually process your
But
request.
what this is saying is that insufficient information is the only reason.
There can be numerous reasons.
Yeah, but what this is saying is that we do this, the HPC will approve, deny, or postpone.
Oh,
See what I-
Additional
why don't we
information
say-
is required to make a decision.
why don't we say the HPC may deny or postpone this decision due to insufficient information? So remove the approve. So is that what you're saying?
Well, that's one of the things, but I still have a problem with, the HPC may deny the decision due to insufficient information.
Right. That is,
And due to XYZ, there may be sufficient information, but it is incorrect, it is unacceptable. You see what I mean?
so instead of saying due to, we could say the HPC may deny or postpone the decision due to insufficient or incorrect information.
I don't think you have to give a reason. I think the whole thing, the review, I would like to drop the first sentence.
So I
And
think,
say, please fill out the COA with as much detail as
well,
possible.
I think that they're dependent, right? And I could flip them, because what I'm trying to say here is fill out the COA with as much detail as possible, including photos and drawings, because we might deny or postpone the decision because you haven't done a good job. So that's what I think this is trying to say is be thorough, include as much detail as possible, and we even have an example of one you can reference if you need to. But it could affect our ability to approve the COA. Does that make sense?
But you know, when all of us put in an application for something that we want, I've never seen a sentence that says, well, you know, of course I know that they're going to either approve or deny, or they're going to want some more information. That's the way that the government works around here. And I can see where, you know, I don't mind this sentence particularly, but for instance, I have more problems with, please be sure to fill out the COA with as much detail. Of course they're going to do that.
No,
No, they
that's
aren't.
an assumption.
Yeah.
We've seen
We've
one.
seen the yacht club, for instance.
Mm.
Yeah, that's well. Okay.
That was one of them, and there was another one.
Well, just one recently that hasn't actually officially been submitted,
Right.
which was barely even a document. So, I mean, I think that let's assume that everybody that is going through this process has no earthly idea how to do this. And I mean, that's not, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying, let's make the process as simple as possible and as clear as possible. And I think this is just a reminder to say, like, put a lot of information in there. Don't skip.
I think during the review of your COA, the HPC may postpone their decision due to insufficient information. I don't think you can deny for that reason.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay, I'll buy that. Postpone the decision, okay. I can
So
get
we're
behind
taking
that.
out approve and deny, or just?
Yeah,
take
during the
them?
review of your COA, the HPC may
May
postpone the
postpone.
decision due to
Okay.
insufficient information.
Well, that certainly makes it clearer.
Yeah, okay. And I might flip the sentences still and say, please be sure to fill out the COA with as much detail as possible, including
Yeah.
photos, because the HPC may postpone the decision due to insufficient.
Is there any time when it's not required to have photos and drawings? Seems to me there isn't.
We haven't come up against that yet.
So I would just drop the when required. Please be
as
sure to
soon
fill
as
out
possible,
the COA
including-
with as much detail as possible.
Yeah,
including
I've
photos
already
and drawings.
I've already removed you had already
Oh.
asked to remove that, so I've already stricken it from.
It's what's called short-term memory
Yes.
loss.
I got it, and I can always send it out one more time for you guys to take one last look at it. It's not a big deal to make these changes. Okay, any other comments, questions, anything else that looks odd to you?
In the next paragraph,
Mm-hmm.
and this is just me being really nitpicky,
Mm-hmm.
will receive grammatical approval letter.
If your COA is approved, applicant, planning board, and code enforcement officer receives approval letter from HPC within 10 days of approval. Work may proceed immediately. Is that what you're?
Mhm.
Oh, you're saying it should say,
Will receive. Because
oh, I'm sorry, I'm obviously slow tonight. Codes enforcement officer will receive
right.
approval letter from HPC. Okay.
And the same thing with the next one, applicant will receive notification.
Applicant will receive, yeah, easy. Okay, I like it.
But I think this is really, really neat thing to have.
It's good, right?
It's short, sweet, to the point, it's got a lot of white space, and it takes up one page. I love it.
Mwah. Thank you. So, if somebody gets this, I'll make these changes tomorrow or the next day, send this out to Kathleen, and say, this is ready to go, can you print out a bunch of them and keep them handy? So when people come in, and Bruce should have a stack as well. And then we'll also figure out a way to put this online. If anybody goes to the Facebook page right now, they're gonna get like an under construction notification.
Excuse me, who will you send it out to?
I'm going to email a PDF to Kathleen Honorado and ask if she is okay with printing out a stack of them to keep in the office. And then we'll also have this online somewhere.
If she isn't, I can do it, because I've got a pile of paper that I'm not gonna be.
Do you have a pile of toner as well? Because
No. What about the
that's-
town
I'll take a
crest?
toner.
Are we gonna have it on the paper?
What? Say what? It's on.
It's already on.
It's
Okay.
on. Look, it's right there, John.
Okay. Well, I can remember an email that said, oh, I'm sorry, you can't use a town crest because we have no planning department.
Well, that was the one that
What?
the planning department on it.
And
No, that had nothing to do with the crest, because there's just no planning department. Or no.
This should be
planning.
fine.
I was just making
Kathy
sure.
gave this to me.
Yeah,
I love crests. I
Yeah,
think they're great.
the one in question, it said planning department on it.
Ah, that would make
Mhm.
sense.
Mhm.
Can't have that.
Can't have that. Okay, good.
So
Any more?
that's
Any
one
more
thing
information that we need to,
One thing off the list that will be done. We can check it off as completed.
One other quick question.
Yeah.
PC webpage,
Yes.
do we have a webpage and Facebook?
Yes. So
Okay.
the HPC website is at the Wiscasset, the Wiscasset Town website has a link for the Boards and Committees Historic Preservation is our landing page on the town website. It's a little bit messy, it could be fixed up, but
The whole town website needs an overhaul.
it does. That would be a nice thing to have one of these days, but we can make our page better and we can send people to the Facebook page, which will look really nice. I know Pam's gonna do a beautiful job. So, okay, so that's that.
okay, good. Thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Now, Gordon, I interrupted what you were gonna say.
I was asking whether, if you were discussing having the block for the CEO guy to check off and everything, and just adding one more space in that block as to required yes or no. And if it's a no, then he don't need to sign it, but if it's a yes, then he's gotta sign off on it. But the applicant should be aware.
But they're not going to fill one out unless he tells them they have to.
Right.
The next down below that for the planning and zoning. Required or not required?
I don't think that,
I did wind up having conflicts. Yeah, we asked the
why
question.
would planning have anything to do with this? They wouldn't.
Do they-
That's, if your COA is approved, are we talking about that? The applicant gets a letter, the admin gets a letter, and the admin sends it out to the code enforcement. And also and they also put it into the file. That's what I did with the Maxwells. And that seemed to work.
I
This-
guess I'm not understanding what Gordon's saying.
Yeah, I'm not intending to confuse anybody. If
It's not hard with me, Gordon, trust me.
no, I just
They're even making me sit on the grand jury.
applicants look at things and say, well, nobody told me I needed to do that. It's either a
They
yes
don't
or a
have to
no.
go before the planning board.
Yeah.
So it's all-
That's
so
a
it's-
totally different apples and oranges. They don't have to go to the planning board or the ORC, but they have to come only to truth.
Mhm.
Now, why it's here that the applicant, planning board, and code enforcement officer receives notice of your decision, is that just a courtesy to the planning board?
No, actually, I would just take that out. I think we should just remove that. Applicant and code enforcement officer.
I'm being the devil's advocate here.
No, I'm
because-
glad you brought that up.
We are in the business of supporting the planning board.
No, we aren't.
No, it's just codes.
No, we aren't. You are in the business of administering the Wiscasset Historic Preservation Commission. And unless and I could be very wrong and have forgotten, unless there is something in that ordinance that calls out that we have to say anything to the planning board, we don't.
So let's remove this mention of the planning board in this checklist.
And I'm sorry that I don't have my complete ordinance book with me because
I do,
okay.
I do.
I do as well.
So swing yourself to the planning board.
Mhm.
No, I don't think that that's part of it. I want to go to 10.7.4.
You have to review subdivisions. They don't have to review buildings, that you're making changes to.
The only time where they mention the planning board is actually 10.8.2, where the Board of Selectmen, the planning board, the commission, or public itself, through a May revised statute Title 30, may initiate action to amend this ordinance. That's the only time I found the word planning board. And that goes, we've gone through this, last year.
No, what I'm asking, John, is if you've got all of the ordinances there, to look under the planning board ordinance.
Oh, no, I don't have the entire, I just have our
And I don't have
ordinance.
my computer, so.
I didn't want to, walk around with it.
No, I know, neither did I, on these slippery.
That's something we should look into. Okay, any more discussion on this?
So I'm going to remove planning board, the mention of the planning board from the COA checklist, if you're okay with that. Because I think it makes more sense to just say, if your COA is approved, applicant and code enforcement officer will receive approval letter from HBC within 10 days of approval. Work may proceed immediately. Everybody good with that?
I'm good with that.
Okay, all right.
How about the last paragraph? If your COA is not approved.
Okay.
Applicant will receive notification within 10 days.
Mhm. The applicant has 30 days from the date of the final decision to appeal to the zoning board of appeals.
And remember, if it comes up, that specifically says, and I think it's state mandate, that 30 days starts at the end of your meeting, not when they get the notification.
Okay.
Well, right, okay, from the date of the final decision. So because we make the final decision at that time.
Yeah, the
at
vote.
the end.
Right.
The vote's the final decision.
Okay. Okay, so you guys are good with this then, the way it is?
Mhm.
All right,
Okay.
Okay.
And let's, even if we have to print it ourselves, I'll be glad to donate, at least. Let's get it out.
Oh,
do
well,
it.
we're ready now. I mean, this is, after I make these final
Good.
changes, we're done. I'm gonna send it to Kathy and I'll ask her if it's okay if she.
And we're gonna have one of these copies on the website.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just have to, it may take a little while because I have to find out who the town webmaster is and how the process is for getting documents uploaded. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
good. That one done.
Okay.
Can anybody tell me, from what they know, where our modifications that we worked so hard with the ORC is, and what's gonna happen? Is it going in front of the,
Could I, just before you get to that,
sure,
to have a clear path, I think, just to cover all your bases, I think you need a motion and a second and a vote to accept this
Okay.
as the way you're doing things.
good point, good point. Okay.
As amended
Mhm.
at this meeting, I mean, the
Uh,
motion could
yes.
be,
Leslie, why don't you go ahead and make a motion?
I want to make a motion that we accept the COA checklist as amended tonight as final document.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Would the secretary like to read it?
It's been moved to accept the COA as amended as a finished copy and second
COA checklist.
checklist.
Okay, all those in favor show a right hand. All those against show a left hand. Guess not. Okay, approved.
Hallelujah.
Good point, Susan.
Thank you, Susan.
Okay, going on to what I've said. We've been just sort of wandering around trying to figure out where that is, where
you
all
can't
the work
wander
we
around,
did.
you have to go to the selectmen and say, what are you putting on the warrant as changes for the Wiscasset Historic Preservation Commission?
And that,
And then you must make sure that they are not putting on the warrant the change of the borders.
explain it.
Changing the borders
Oh, the borders,
involves
yes.
a lot of money, a
Yes,
lot of
yes.
time, a lot of
Do
grief.
that.
We
Borders,
decided
okay.
not, or you decided not to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, the change to 10.4.4.1.
Right. And I think they dropped it also, but I do think you've got to find out fast.
And the problem, well, that's something that we can get to Marion, because from what I understand, she's a conduit into the board.
When's her last
It's-
day? When does
Her
she-
last day is the end of the month, isn't it?
February to something.
What you need to do is ask her what is in the proposed warrant for the June town meeting for changes for the HBC.
Okay. Good. All right, I'll do that Monday. Let me see. Signs in the historic district. It's, we had a lot of discussion on that, and there is, within the ordinance, a very clear and
Description of
well pointed
window
out.
signs.
Let me read it.
Yeah.
10.7.1.4, signs. General, signs shall be governed by the standards of Article 3. Signs of the town of Wiscasset ordinances and this section. If there is any conflict, the stricter standards shall apply. All signs, either new or upon alteration, require a certificate of appropriateness. Contemporary signage needs shall be met with signs designed to be consistent with the architectural style of the building, respectful of the neighboring buildings, and carefully designed to fit the facade in the case of attached signs. The design shall take into account the scale, character, and design of the building, the traditional location of the signage on area buildings, the location of existing signboards, lower cornices, lintels, and other architectural elements, and the opportunity to use signage as an element to enhance the appearance of the building entrances. So we do have a definite statement.
No neon.
No neon is right, yeah, absolutely.
No moving parts.
No neon plastics, and remember, Gordon, that we went through this problem with that oil tank? With the oil tank right against the, against the
Yeah.
courthouse?
We ever get anywhere with that?
No,
No, because
No, we were-
it never got, it never went beyond,
And at that point, the
Asking-
selectmen weren't about to,
no.
no, and they weren't about to period.
It was basically said, it's a government property, we're not messing with it,
yeah, which
was
is
wrong,
nonsense.
was wrong.
So if we're specifically talking about the new business down on Water Street, what's it, Little Maine Mercantile? There, you'd mentioned there have been some people making comments about the sign, and I don't understand exactly what the issue is.
I have no idea who they were, really. I was told that somebody did not like their sign, and I
Makes
said,
no
well,
sense. The sign, so, okay, this is in point A of 10.7.1.4, where signage is proposed on street-level windows, such signage should not substantially obscure visibility through the window. That's really, I mean, I guess they do need to apply for a COA, and the sign is on a window, adhered from the inside. The signs that they put on their windows look like everybody else's sign around there. Everybody's using white lettering. It looks appropriate. It's a really handsome-looking sign. I just don't understand what the objections are.
I have no idea. I haven't heard anything except just mumbles. And I told them when I went in there, I said, well, when do you plan to put a big sign up? And they said, soon. I said, well, good. If you put one outside, you're going to definitely need a COA.
Yeah, I think the question lies in whether we are supposed to regulate signage which is inside the building.
Well, it
it
says
can be
where
seen
signage is.
from a public way. I don't know.
But then, I mean, you refer to all of these descriptions, which I think their sign adheres to. Appropriate scale for pedestrians, typefaces which are simple, easy to read, and scaled appropriately, consistent with architectural style of the building, respectful of neighboring buildings, blah, blah, blah. To me, their signs fit all of this, and maybe the only thing that's missing is they haven't submitted a COA. And if they are definitely planning on putting an exterior sign out, I guess that's another story, but I mean, I just want to make sure, because they're a new business and they're...
Oh, I'm not, I certainly don't want to interfere.
Right.
I'm just saying that,
Well, if
we
somebody
really
has
have
a
to-
problem with it and they haven't come forward, they're just
yeah.
yapping about it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Then
Uh,
just blow it off, just...
Yeah.
As long as they are really, and I think the people are fine. I'm glad that there's a business.
Me too.
I sure
Lovely.
just don't want to see empty storefronts.
Oh, no.
So I think we can play that by ear. One of the problems was that Bruce had code enforcement problems with the size of the pipes that the young man who is part, his wife owns it and he's the cook. They used a friend from Bath to put in the pipe size. And Bruce said, it's the wrong pipe size. We don't allow that pipe size. So that's how the code enforcement officer got involved with it. So I explained to him, I said, as long as you follow the rules, there's no problem. And so whether this was just somebody throwing out some type of stuff, I agree with Susan. until they come up and make a formal, comment, or we hear it on the news, or, see it in the newspaper. Let's just walk past it.
I think we also have to be careful, and I know you and I have talked about this, John, is like, if people approach any of us by ourselves, not in the confines of a meeting, we have to be careful to make sure that we don't say like, oh, you should be fine, I don't think you should worry about it, because they may construe that to mean
Yeah.
HBC approves, so we have to be really careful.
I agree with that completely, but in the standpoint that people call you up, and I'm telling you, I get phone calls, and people want to know. The first thing I say to them, I said, go to the town website and get a copy of the historic ordinance.
Well,
And then you can talk with that, and and it's part of being neighborly, and it's part of being friendly. And I'm not stepping in the way. No, don't shake your head with me on this one, because I have fielded more phone calls, and I realize, and I'm staying within the limits of what should be said.
I think that the stock answer that we all need to give somebody when they call is to say, we're here to help you. Your first point of contact always have to be codes of enforcement. We can't get involved at the beginning stage of any project. Talk to codes, but if you have any questions about submitting a COA or where to get the documents, call me back.
Well, that's exactly what's being said. And they need to hear it, because there is nobody here when they walk in that says, yeah, sure, we're going to help you, but you have to see the code enforcement officer first. Mm-hmm. And you have to understand what the ordinance is.
And people questioning it, not the applicant, need to follow the same process.
Sure.
Go to the code enforcement officer.
It's a
and ask
process,
questions
it's a
first.
law. We follow the law, period.
But there's also, and I say this from acting in a public capacity for,
Couple
God
years.
help me, almost 60 years.
Really?
When I am moderator of a town meeting, I am neither friendly, nor neighborly, nor Susan. I am a thing.
You're an official.
I am somebody who is in charge to keep things orderly. And I don't care who it is, who gives me grief, I will not stand for it.
Mm-hmm.
When I am chairman of the Board of Appeals, and I've been doing that one for 40 years at least, people call me all the time, and I say, sorry, I cannot speak to that, come to the meeting, and hang up. I don't make excuses, I don't let them say anything more. I am polite and final. If I go to a meeting that is discussing something that might come before me, and somebody asks me what I think, I say, I have no opinion as an official. Personally, I think it's a terrible idea. But don't take that you're not going to get whatever it is you want. That's my opinion as a person. It has nothing to do with the law. And this is something that I feel passionately about. There are a lot of laws that I don't like. For the most part, except for speeding in my new car, I obey the laws whenever I know about them. And that old thing about ignorance of the law is no excuse. Right. Yeah, right. But I also will fight to uphold the law and to do what the law says. And I just think that if you're going to act in an official capacity, you have to be Caesar's wife. You have to be more and better than your usual self.
Yeah, it's,
Anyway.
Well, I think that's a good way to look at it.
yeah.
And I think we all have to deal with it in the way that we best can. Excuse me. All right, how about, okay, we've done A, B, and C.
I had a few things I wanted to bring up, if that's okay, to add to whether it's considered new business or old business. But I still really feel like we need to focus on what our budget for this year needs to be and how much money we can feel like we can ask the town for, whether it's the $1,000 that they've been earmarking for us and how we're gonna use that, or if I think we should ask for more. The worst they can say is no. But if we're going to ask for more money, we need to have a darn good reason to be asking for more money. What do we want to ask for?
We need to have a budget.
We need to have a
We
budget.
need
And you need to
definitely
go
have
to
a
the budget hearings,
Right,
unfortunately, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah,
okay.
so,
So what would conceivably be part of our budget, aside from paying for administration and office supplies, and do we have a project in mind where did we want to think about trying to get more photographs cataloged or archived in
Mhm.
conjunction with the library? Have
Might-
someone walk the neighborhoods. Do we want to work on cataloging more of the historic properties?
Might want to budget for members to attend training workshops.
Yes.
Okay, so training workshops. Haven't
They're-
those been?
they're not all
generally
free.
Okay.
No, they aren't.
Okay.
Say $1,200.
So $1,200 for training workshops, okay.
I just pulled that out of the air, but
Okay,
Um,
$1,000 for admin,
And to include in that membership in preservation associations.
okay, so add that to
Yes.
the training workshops budget, training workshops and memberships. And what did you say, Gordon?
I'm sorry, say,
in preservation
preservation
organizations.
organizations.
Okay, okay,
And a lot of them, I think, will give you courtesy membership because of being on the HBC.
and then I was also thinking maybe that's gonna be part of this admin budget, some money for mailings. Mailings for, if we want to send out a postcard twice a year that points people to the
Yes.
Facebook page or to the website or talks about an event or something. So maybe $500 for postcards and mailings.
Yeah,
Advocacy, we could call it advocacy.
or even advertising.
Advertising.
Advertising, they'll.
Advocacy
they won't like.
sounds better. Advocacy. Okay, anything else?
Workshops, organizational membership. I remember some of the ones that we batted around or I used to pay and get or didn't get.
Do we know whether Jim's idea of putting up a sign outside the house?
That is still on, I was just looking at that, that seems to be still.
Still on the warrant, I think, but we
It
have to
should-
check.
Pardon?
We have to check.
Yeah, it
But don't we
was,
want some
it
money
was
to
one of
pay
the
for
things
that?
that was submitted.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
one of the things that was.
What is this?
This is the poster that Jim suggested,
The yellow poster, so everybody knows that the property
that
is.
the property owner
going to be
puts up, but we would provide the poster with what's needed on it.
Yeah,
And the printing and we could probably print it.
So poster, is it a reproduction of the old historic map, or are you talking
No.
about?
No, this is a poster that goes outside the building, saying, I want to put purple and pink striped shutters on the outside of this, and I'm going to the HPC to see if they'll let me do it.
Oh, to notify folks that there's
That there's a COA pending.
COA notification. It's kind of like a building permit that you hang, put in your
Okay.
window when you're getting something done.
And that's something that we would, I mean, does it have to be a poster, or can it just be like
Well,
a
we
piece of
we
poster
haven't
board that's
decided
8.5 by
on a
11?
size or the wording yet. It's just a matter of, we have decided that it needs to be part of the notification
I
process.
see.
And I think Jim's idea was, it couldn't just be an 8.5 by 11. It had to be something
Larger.
larger and that could be eye-catching from the street, you know, or at least faintly readable.
Okay, so that might be something we'd want to include in the budget, and, you know, maybe we could run them off and run off the side of them and
Yeah,
have like
paper.
300 of them.
Yeah, only bigger.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think, $300 or something like that for a budget like that?
Less. If we
250?
did it 8.5 by 14, we could print it
Probably
ourselves.
100.
It would-
$100? 125?
it would depend
125
upon,
sounds
Okay,
pleasant.
125
If you
does
wanted
sound.
to-
I mean, it isn't just a round number.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good.
I think, just going out here, it needs to be something that would be weatherproof or be able to be written on with not
With
wash
permanent
away
marker,
with
yeah.
a permanent marker, which would tend to cause it to be more expensive than just a piece of paper.
That's true. Well, it could be laminated if it needs to go outside. Otherwise, it could be inside the window, like if it's a storefront or.
A storefront or a house, it could go in the window,
Window.
but that would not preclude it to being out at curbside where somebody going by could read it.
That's the thing.
Right.
Laminating is expensive. What if we investigated at some point,
Put it, if it was,
if you had a clear plastic bag
if it was
that
this
it would
size,
fit into
if it
right
was-
side up?
if it was this size, you know, because they're available, the sleeves, like you use
Yeah.
for your notebook, and put it in, and then put that on, and then staple it to a board, and hang it, put it out there.
And I think you can get those sleeves bigger.
Okay, well, I know, you know, for notebook sizes, but,
Yeah.
you know, maybe they are.
But I think notebook size is too small. I think Jim's right on that.
Okay.
Unless,
11 by 14, I think, would be the maximum, particularly if we were going to reproduce it ourselves. 11 by 14, you can
no,
do
8.5 by 14 or 11 by 17.
11 by 17.
Those we can't usually print ourselves. Most printers won't take them.
By the way, it's 10.6.1.2 that we're changing. And it's a poster shall be posted on the subject property stating the alteration, construction, or demolition proposed and the time, date, and place of the COA review. That's the red thing that we put in with the ORC.
Yeah,
Good idea.
so we have to see if they're gonna do that,
But if we don't have the money to do it, how in the world can we do
so
it?
they can get some work done.
Um,
And all I can say is it's your fault for telling me this meeting was, I was perfectly willing to.
But
Are we meeting next week?
as far as I know, I can figure out no,
Okay,
because of the fact that we did it here on the 10th.
mhm.
We do have in fact, I just received the email from Rick Snyder and Faye Snyder, who are gonna do windows on their shop.
yeah,
And he's gone through all the things and sent it to me, and the fact that Kathleen isn't around is the reason why I have this
why isn't she around?
Vacation.
vacation. And as soon as she comes in Monday, I'm gonna drop this on her desk, and you will get Rick. Rick Snyder wants to come in from Maryland on the first Thursday in February.
Perfect.
And so I said.
He's
okay.
got it before the 15th of the preceding month. We love him.
Yeah. And he's done all the work and done, you know, he's He's really right on top of it, and he's talked to the code enforcement officer.
So is Faye coming in? I've got a lot of women for
I
her.
think, they're planning to move here earlier and stay until October, late
Yeah.
October. So we're just, okay,
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Before you leave, Susan, I just have
Motion
one
to
more
adjourn.
question. I have one more question. There had been an initial discussion just as I joined HPC about CLGs. Is
Right.
this something that we should take up again? And is it something we need to include in the budget because it's going to cost us some money to go through the process?
That is up to you. I don't see that they're going to do us a whole lot of good yet,
Okay.
but we can't include it in the budget until the selectmen approve going after it. They have to approve our applying for CLG.
Well, we'd have to sell
And
them on the
we can't
reason
do
why it's a
that.
good thing.
We can't do that until we add the things that the state historic preservation officer says we need to add to
Right.
this.
So it's going to be a
I
year
see.
out anyway.
I gotcha, okay.
Some of them I think we did include.
good. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
No, not just because I'm with you.
Well,
Well, everybody
We're
wants to
finished.
be
Talk among yourselves.
separate.
we have that.
You said the next meeting.
I'm closer to talking to myself. but-
Okay, our next meeting is gonna be Thursday.
It's okay.
I brought
And
mine.
I'm looking at jackets
February or something?
online,
February
I don't
something.
find anything like.
I really did bring a book.
Arg. Okay, off we went. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Okay,
you
take
so
care.
much for your time. Bye. Night.
Watch out for that big fast black car.
Uh-huh. It's just gotten back.
Uh-huh.
Oh, you're still looking for your calendar, John?
First, just put down the first Thursday in the month of February. I don't have mine. 2019. I put it in here. Okay,
Okey dokey.
good.
When you came in, you said before we leave, I should ask you to ask me something, but I didn't hear what you wanted me to ask you.
It's gone now. I got short, I have no memory any longer, so apparently it wasn't very
It
important.
gets worse as you get older.
Yeah, I'm afraid of that. I can barely remember where I live. Hey, I think that was a good meeting. We got a lot done.
I think so.
Those were, yeah. those.
Change in administration.
Yes, I think. Oh, hey, we should turn on that thingamajiggy. Oh, we did all that good stuff. All right, how do we shut this down?
Just follow all the things up there.
Did we have?
It's a plan.
Broadcast.
Follow the bouncy ball.